that too, I think to simplify, like, at least for me too, when I speak on seeking him, everything that I normally would text somebody, call somebody, or the things that I would do to vacate the reality of stuff I was going through, I stopped doing those things and I replaced those things with conversations with God. So instead of calling my brother and like venting to him or talking to him as if he's the one that can really fix anything, the only thing he can do is give me some perspective and you know, lick wounds with me. That's it.
Right.
So I stopped doing those things and I started the same thing, going to God with honesty of, hey man, look, this what I'm struggling with, or this where I'm at.
Right.
And I'm tired of being in this place.
Right.
You know, like I don't want to, yes, you know, I'm tired of, you know, getting back to a decent place and then these same things resurfacing, then I'm back in the same state. So it's like, man, like I can't do this. And I think another amazing part of seeking him is telling him you physically can't do something. Right. It's almost showing like, God, I'm straight human. And yes, and I can't, the battles that I've been going through, I haven't succeeded. I've tried multiple things and I'm back to the drawing board every time, but I'm tired of going to the drawing board.
Right.
Come in, give me your spirit, so that you can fight this battle for me. Right. And man, in those conversations, another thing that seeking requires is you to be patient, because picking up the phone and calling somebody, that's instant gratification. Right. Going to a party, that's instant gratification. Most times when you're dealing with Yahweh, there isn't instant gratification. Not every time, but most times. Right. It's because in that place of sitting, right, it allows you to deal with you. Right. It allows, like when you sitting and you restraining from doing these things, you only can face your reality. Right. Man, why am I thinking this stuff, man? Why? And as you asking that stuff, he's listening to every single, and I promise you, everything that I've ever asked God why to, he done answered. Like, man, why I always end up with these type of people? And he answered that. That's because you like to be needed and you love to be wanted, right, versus valued. So any person that you feel that needs you, you attach yourself to them. Right. Any person that makes you feel wanted, like, oh, I want Fonzo, you attach yourself to them. Versus being valued. Because if a person value you, see, or he told me this, he said when a person needs you, when they no longer need you, you cut off. When a person just wants you, what happens when they no longer want you? You cut off. Right. But if a person really value who you is, right, you know where you stand with them and you never have to worry about your heart's being in danger. So it was so much stuff too through seeking him that I discovered. And that's why, you know, even in my song, by the way, go check out Lions Den podcast, but also check out Victorious Pain. I said life situations reveal you to you. Mm-hmm. And seeking him reveals yourself to you because he already know who you are.
He just wants you to take accountability for it. He just wants you to come to him and be vulnerable. Because we can be vulnerable so much to men, but we can't be vulnerable to him.
That's true. As if he already don't know.
That is crazy. Like we can want men, so like we can have a desire for men so much more than him because we can't see him. Yeah. So we think he's not there. Yeah. So we want to turn to something physically that we can physically see, that we can physically touch, and we can get our desires taken care of. Yeah. But since it's not working on our time, that's why we seek people outside of him. Yeah. Because we want things done right then and there.
Most definitely. And a lot of things that we run to in the flesh usually leads us to places of entrapment. Right. The things we usually run to doing flesh, because we remember, even in the 1 Corinthians 6, where he talks about at the end of that, I believe it's 12 through 16 or 12 through 20, he talks about at the bottom, he says, I put this spirit in the inside of you to glorify me with your body. So it's like at the end of the day, yes, we are in the flesh, but we supposed to have the mindset that I'm always moving in the spirit. Right. So when we get urges, when our flesh want to go and do something, that should be a yellow light to stop and think. But instead, when we get urges, we just feed. Right. We don't stop and think. We just feed it. And with that stopping and thinking is like, okay, my flesh wants this, but what requires me? What does he require of me? And then the spirit convicts. And then we should go off what he has already told us to do in the spirit. Right. But because I feel like we're not really brought up to be taught how to battle the flesh, how to beat the flesh. Right. We're taught how to, and I said this a lot with most churches, people come to church to learn how to cope with sin. Right. To learn how to cope with their problems. But we're not really taught how to eradicate it, how to get liberation, and how to keep pick up the cross, deny. We're not really taught those things. Right. So through seeking, you correct me if I'm wrong, but for me, through seeking, he also showed me how to fight. He also showed me how to fight. Yeah.
And I can also say, drinking can also be a coping mechanism, because it's a coping mechanism for me. Yeah. Like in the things that I was going through, I always turned to drinking, or I always wanted to go out to get my mind off of what I was going through at that moment. Well, now that I look back at it, it really wasn't a good thing for me. It just, it kind of like, it made me realize that my character was like dimmed in a way, if that makes sense. Like I said, it wasn't me. Like I would be out in the world doing stuff. And I want to add in, one day I was at a party, and one of the girls that I saw had a big old bottle of Remy in my hand, and Remy was my favorite liquor besides Hennessy.
Okay, Remy wine.
I was a Remy heavy. So I had a big bottle of Remy in my hand, and the girl came to me out of nowhere, and she said, "Aren't you Sonya's daughter? Don't you dance with Dancing with a Purpose?" I was out of my body. I was drunk.
Whoa.
I was so drunk.
At a party?
At a party.
Whoa.
Aren't you Miss Sonya's daughter? Don't you dance with Dancing? And at that time, it did not even convict me. Whoa. At that time, it did not convict me, but now that I look at it, it's like, we have to be careful. We have to be careful of what we do and how we act outside of ministry, because like I stated before, my character, it deflamed my character. Like the stuff I used to do, like I can't even see myself doing that right now, knowing that I want to be deep in ministry.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's a
it's crazy how it happened. Like she came at me out of nowhere. Out of everybody that was with me, like some members of Dancing with a Purpose was with me, but she recognized me. Yeah. And that was crazy to me. Wow. That was really crazy to me.
Wow. Yeah, that's a whole other topic of still, what did I say this? I think I was putting something together, and I said, what do you do when you still desire a thing, right? When your flesh still desire a thing, and it's not, because people try to make it seem like the stuff that they was in, like now that they living for God, like they don't even like it no more. I
still love the smell of alcohol. Even though I don't indulge in it, it's like sometimes I have that desire to want to drink again. Sometimes I have that desire to want to go out again. Sometimes I have that desire to be in a club again. But I think about my life and where God has brought me from. Why do I want to end up in that predicament again? Because I know where it will, have me. Like I know it won't have me in nothing good. It might have me in something worse than what it did initially.
Yes, absolutely.
So even though I have, I'm not gonna say I have a desire to do it, even though I still would like to indulge in it. Like I said, I know where God brought me from. So I don't do it anymore because I fear God. Yes. And I fear the consequences that it might be worse than what it was before.
Yes. Absolutely. Absolutely. Because people, when we talk about deliverance, most people like to use it as if when God delivers you from something, if you still have desires, if you still X, Y, and Z, then that means that you're not delivered.
Right.
And what people don't understand is deliverance means to save. And we all have free will. We all can choose. The same way we can choose to accept the invitation of salvation, we can also choose to reject it. Right. The same way we can choose to accept deliverance, we also can reject it. Right. So it's a choice. Yes, I've been delivered for something, right? Because God has revealed to me what those things were. How was they affecting me? How, when he said the wages of sin is death, he revealed to me what death looked like in those situations for me. Right. So because of that, I'm no longer doing that stuff. But I have a choice still. Right. I can still go out there and do it. Right. And people just be trying, I don't know, people crazy. But it's learning how to, again, like I said, through seeking him, he also taught me how to fight. Right. And once he reveals something to you and teach you how to govern your flesh, it's literally at 30 years old, I'm like, man, I really wish I had, this type of relationship with him when I was just getting into high school. I really wish, but this because I was going to church every Sunday, but I didn't have a relationship with him. I was just going there playing the drums and doing whatever. If I really had a relationship with him, like I would have been able to discern the things that I was taught. And probably wouldn't have even went down the path that I went down.
And it's so crazy because in high school, I think that's crazy because in high school, every weekend I wasn't like I'm not gonna say I wasn't like the other kids, but at the same time I wasn't like the other kids. Like the people I used to hang around with, they wasn't at church almost every weekend.
Yeah.
Dance with a Purpose had an engagement almost every weekend. And they, like some of the people I would hang around with at school, they were like, oh, you don't want to invite Taylor because Taylor got church, or Taylor got to do this, or Taylor got to do that in church. And it's like, at that time, people used to call me a church girl, and it's like, I don't want to be labeled as a church girl. Like, I'm the same as you. I'm a human as you. I can do stuff, the same stuff you do, I can do too. It's just, I love dancing, so I'm going to go out and do this engagement. And I think that's when I got into college. That's when everything just started. When I got on my own, from outside of my covenant of Dancing with a Purpose, I felt like that's when I just started engaging into a lot of stuff. That I know people wouldn't know me, and like I couldn't be labeled as a church girl in Jacksonville, so I can do whatever I want. And that now, like looking back at that, I actually am grateful for the people calling me a church girl. I'd rather be a church girl. I'm okay with being a church girl.
100%.
Yeah.
That's crazy. And I think we know what we're doing. Like, you knew what you was doing when you was dancing. Right. Oh, I'm worshiping, but you didn't know why.
Right.
You didn't know why.
And
because we don't know why, or you didn't know why, it was like, yeah, I can come and dance, and when I leave here, I can go to the club.
Right.
Yeah, you can, if you don't know why you dancing.
Right.
Right. And it's the same way with me. I was going to church, but I didn't know why going and why learning it. I didn't understand why all of that stuff was necessary or why it was important, because I wasn't being taught it. I was just being taught what, when, and where.
Why?
I wasn't being taught why. And most people, if you don't know why you're doing something, you can be swayed.
Right. Driving the fence.
Yeah.
And like with dancing, I knew God. I knew I loved God. But I didn't know the extent. I didn't know how far I can go outside of God's covering. Like in Jacksonville, like I wanted to dibble and dabble. Like I wanted to get into stuff that I knew I wasn't supposed to be getting into in Gainesville. Like I knew that I would never do in Gainesville. Like I wanted to do that in Jacksonville. And when I experienced it, I experienced the consequences after that. And I'm like, God, like, dang, why me? Like, why am I getting the consequences? Why am I facing the consequences when people that's not even serving you, they get let go? Like, it's like, they good. Yeah. But you got, like, the person, well, if you believe in God and if you're doing this stuff, he's going to hold you accountable for what you're doing. And I had to realize that, but at the time, I'm like, why are you not, punishing them? Why are you not punishing the people of the world for what they're doing? But it's like, I had to sit back and think about that. Like, it was crazy.
Yeah, because you were supposed to be, like Pete talk about all the time, you were supposed to be going in the world to pull people out.
Right.
But, and it's, I think Paul talks about this too. It's like, I can go into the world, I can be amongst the people and not become the people. And I believe, like, when we have been exposed to Yahweh and we done seen him work in people's lives, even if he haven't in our own at that time, and then we go and do stuff because we have the Spirit. So when we say, I know I was wrong, that's the conviction of the Spirit already. And because of that conviction, because most people that's in the world have reprobate mind, so they don't feel no type of way about the stuff that they're doing. But we going out with the conviction of his Spirit, still doing it. So it's like he's seeking who he can devour, and the people that's in the world that we feel ain't nothing happening to, that's because they already devoured.
Oh, that's good.
They already ate up. So it's like, I'm not out here to get them. I see somebody over there with a little bit of light on them. It's dim, but they got some light, and it's my job to devour them before that light gets too bright.
Right.
So so yeah, man, we be testing him. And we just one day or one mistake too short of his grace, and that's a done deal.
Yep.
So that's why, man, that's why I'm so thankful. So when I talk and I say I don't have to look back too far, I can just look back to last week.
Right.
And that's enough for me to get turned up because, man, grace for real.
Right.
Grace for real.